Hello, this is J.Roman, and I'm giving you guys a video presentation on the Hackman and Oldham model of job design. And I'm sorry I'm using this for the first time, but it's Prezi. It's interesting way. I wanted to try something new to make a presentation. And this presentation is going to be done in two parts. Part one is going to be this Prezi presentation, and then part two is going to be my own experience with this type of model of job design. So here we go. The Hackman and Oldham model of job design is built around 5 core job dimensions, and it sort of builds on Frederick Herzberg's model of job design, except it goes a little bit farther than the 2 categories that he came up with by building on these 5 job core dimensions. And this first slide gives you a little background on how they how Hackman and Oldham expanded on Frederick Herzberg two-factor theory, and you can read along. The findings are very similar to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, theory of needs, what those things were. Those 5 core job dimensions are one of the primary way to really motivate folks for their jobs, to get the real satisfaction from their jobs. Those 5 core dimensions we're going to be going over, and those were the main contributors to creating a critical psychological state. And those 5 core dimensions are a skill variety, task identity, really identifying what that job is, tag significance, making sure that what you're doing actually has some sort of significance toward it, autonomy, number 4. It's the biggest part. That's why I highlighted it, because it really, nobody likes to be micromanaged. You want to be able to be told what you need to do and have the autonomy to go ahead and do it. And then feedback. You want to know if you're doing it right or you're doing it wrong, or if you need that motivator to letting you know that, hey, yeah, you are doing a good job, or hey, this needs to be tweaked. And those 5 factors were sort of the core of what Hackman and Oldham were thinking about when they came up with their model of job design. And those 5 things, when they're working together, they're contributing to the critical psychological states. And what that means is that you're going to be experiencing meaningfulness in your work. You're experiencing the responsibility of your outcomes for your work, and you can take pride in that. And the knowledge of the actual results of your work. You get to see what your work does. And those things contribute to your growth needs strength, which is a term that Hackman and Oldham developed, that in turn is the degree to which individuals want personal and psychological development in what your work is. Next slide. Those things contribute to your personal and workplace outcomes. Those 5 contributing factors, those 5 core designs, when they're there, they contributed to that critical psychological state, and the outcomes are a high internal work motivation. You find the motivation to continue doing what you're doing because you see value in what you're doing. Your high quality work performance, that means you're going to do these things to the best of your ability. You're going to have a high satisfaction with the work you're doing, and you're going to be there more often than not to make sure that you're the one doing that job when you have those other things that are contributing to it. That means low absenteeism and turnover. So it's a win-win for your employer when these things are in place. And this is something that every employer should be looking for, to create that atmosphere to get the best return from their employee. And then this is part 2, my personal story. And in reflecting on what this Hackman and Oldham model of job design was, I was looking at some of the jobs I've had in the past, and where have I actually contributed the most, or felt like I was getting the most motivation from what I was doing. This is the second part of my overview of the Hackman and Oldham model of job design, and I'm just going to run through some slides real quick. And I thought about the last job I ever had that really gave me some motivation and really kind of kept me going, and kind of best fit what Hackman and Oldham was talking about. And I'm just going to run through some slides here. And it was my last deployment to Afghanistan, where I spent 10 months. And this is where I worked. This was the office. It was I was a camp commandant here, and I was in charge of pretty much a lot of the different aspects of the camp, everything from force protection. I'll go into some other slides later with that. We were doing what they call the village stability operations. So you were really working with the local population to win over hearts and minds. This is what village life was like over there, and these were some of our neighbors. This was where where I spent 10 months of my life here, and it was interesting. So, in comparison to what the previous slides showed, there was a challenge. There was a lot of skill varieties that needed to come to play to really get the job going. There was task identity. We knew what needed to be done. And there was a real significance to what I was doing there. It was all about quality of life, making the place as best and as livable as we could for the duration that we were there. Autonomy is one of the big factors that Hackman and Oldham were talking about, and something that I could relate to, because when you're on your own and you're pretty much left to your own devices, you come to sort of that moment where you just know that you can take care of yourself. So we had about a helo that would come every 17 days and bring something like supplies, water, and things like that. But for the rest of the time, we're pretty much on our own. This was the crew I had, and these were pretty much a shrewd and discerning audience, I'd say, because if there wasn't something that wasn't up to par, we were really pretty much given that feedback right away. These were pictures from some of the jobs I had, everything from force protection to building out rooms to meeting with the local population, building entry control points, cooking. I took on every type of role that could be, and it was a big motivator. This is a list of some of the things that I could just kind of come off the top of my head that were pretty important, and sort of those things that were contributing to that the 5 core job dimensions that Hackman and Oldham were referring to, creating that psychological state that was a big motivator for me in that job. And that was it. The conclusions, I stayed motivated, which was a big key to any type of work that you do. I tried to work to the best of my ability, with my performance. I was really satisfied with some of the results of the things we were able to do. And as far as absenteeism and turnover, it was non-existent, because we were there every day, so there was no calling sick. And that was pretty much my comparison to the Hackman and Oldham model of job design. It's a model that works, or at least in theory. It's one of the theories that's out there, and like we say in class, it all depends, doesn't it? And any questions, feel free to email me. Thanks.